Hey, want a cookie? Oh, I know you just ate, so you're craving something a little sweet. Besides, one cookie isn't gonna kill you. How about half? Just a bite? Bite it. Bite it. Bite it.
Food noise isn't fair, but Mochi Health is. Your affordable GLP-1 source that puts you on a path to successful weight loss by quieting food noise.
Bite it.
Shh. Learn more at joinmochi.com. Mochi members have access to licensed physicians and nutritionists. Results may vary.
1 second, you're finally cleaning out the gutters. The next, the fire alarm blares from inside. Smoke billows out the kitchen window. These are the wake-up calls that happen daily. In 1 second, everything can change. ADT knows that nobody wants to feel unsafe or unprepared for an emergency, especially in their own home. That's why they offer affordable DIY security systems you can set up yourself and monitor from virtually anywhere with the ADT Plus app. They're customizable so you can set up the system that works best for you and keep an eye on it in real time. And ADT security technology is designed for peace of mind by making it easier for first responders to identify your house. They have the most company-operated monitoring centers in the industry, which means you'll get the alerts that matter for you and your home. You tackle that to-do list, ADT will help make sure your home's protected. When every second counts, count on ADT. Visit ADT.com to learn more.
All right. So on today's podcast about the Steve McNair case, we have a very interesting guest, someone who knew Sahel Kazemi pretty well because he was dating her for a while. His name is Keith Norfleet, and he was there through this whole process of this unimaginable crime that took place that we're still trying to find answers to. And we felt that it was really important to talk to Keith, since he's got a very interesting perspective because he knew her, he knew all the players. He kind of also worked with Vincent Hill early on to try to find out answers of what happened to Jenny. So Keith, thank you for being on the podcast. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
And we're so sorry that you had to go through something so horrific. It's really...
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for taking your time to cover this as well. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, we've started looking into this and we were really shocked. We've worked on a lot of cases that have similar tendencies where law enforcement just kind of drops the ball or just stops investigating, and the family and the friends and everyone who loved the person and the victims, they're kind of stuck and they get into this quandary of not being able to get any answers and people being frustrated because they are getting stonewalled on every turn. And it seems like that's kind of what happened here.
Yeah. So why don't you start from the beginning? Let's talk a little about Jenny. Tell us about how you met her and, what your relationship was to her, and tell us a little about her too, about her personality and what she's like.
Well, we met down in Orange Park, Florida, and I was single at the time and kind of on and off with the girl that I was talking to, but on the verge of fizzling out with that relationship. And then just one random day, I had picked a buddy of mine up and we went to the mall, Orange Park Mall, where my buddy had received like a text. I can't remember if it was like a text or a call, but he asked me if I wouldn't mind going to pick up a friend of his that needed a ride. So I was like, yeah, sure, that's fine. So we go to pick her up, which it was Jenny, and that day she was pretty flirtatious with me and everything, and I was flirtatious back. But instead of taking her home, it turned into she wanted to continue to hang out. So I told her I was shopping for some shoes in the mall at the time, and she offered to help me pick some out. And while we were there, she was telling me like, oh, this would look good on you, that would look good on you. And the conversation was going pretty well between the two of us. And my buddy was kind of agging it on. And then while we were actually walking through the mall, we were headed to the food court. She was walking close to me, and she actually bumped my hand and then grabbed it. And I looked at her and kind of smiled, and she was like, She was like, yeah, I think this kind of feels right, doesn't it? And I was like, nervous and shy. And I was like, yeah, it does. I like that. Yeah. But she just kept on and we kept talking, and then it just blossomed from there. And next thing you know, we were hanging out with each other on a regular basis until we officially became girlfriend and boyfriend.
And so tell us a little bit about her personality. What was her personality like?
Well, her personality is what really drew me to her in the first place. She was extremely confident in herself, and I've always really liked that in a woman. And she was very, very outgoing and always ready to do anything fun. And there wasn't much going on in Jacksonville at the time. I mean, a lot of my buddies had moved away because of various different reasons and everything. So to be able to call her and her just be ready to do anything at the drop of a hat was awesome to me. And she was always ready to hang out and go explore new places and take road trips and travel and everything like that. So she was just very bubbly, very upbeat, very positive, always glass half full. It was very alluring. I fell in love with her personality first, and everything else just kind of fell in place.
Right. That's what I think is really sad about this case, because she's been painted in this way that, from what we've been hearing from people like yourself and just doing research, that doesn't match her personality.
Not at all.
I mean, it doesn't seem like this was a girl that was on the brink of suicide or would even think about that. It just didn't seem like that was the path she was on at all.
No, it wasn't. And I mean, a lot of people don't understand too, because like when the media was getting a hold of this story, they were getting a lot of recollection from people who were tied to her in the present. And I mean, this was a time where she was, this was a very uncertain time in her life. And I could tell that because I was around, which a lot of people don't really understand, because, a lot of my side of the story was being suppressed at the time and or twisted if anybody reported on anything that I had to say. But a lot of people were taking, certain conversations and certain things that might have been said, and I could tell they were being easily manipulated in the media and misconstrued. And then people were taking that and just running with it. And it was hurtful, because I was sitting there, watching all of this go down and wanting so badly to speak for her. But I was caught in such a horrible scenario where that if I spoke, I was being pinned as the number one person of interest. So I was having to fend off a ton of people at the time and defend myself. So while I'm trying to defend myself, it was extremely difficult trying to defend her at the same time. Nobody's wanting to listen to what I have to say. They're wanting to know what my involvement is. And I'm just like, golly, I wish you guys could just see past it. And it was just so difficult, because nothing that was being portrayed in the media regarding her really lined up with who she was.
Yeah. Well, let's back up just a little bit, because I want to get a little more information about your relationship with her, and then we'll get back into, because that's really interesting what you're talking about, how you were basically targeted as a possible person of interest. But so, all right, so you met her down in Florida. Right. How long were you dating or together, and how did you guys end up in Nashville?
Well, we started dating shortly after we met, and basically, I would say maybe like 8 months later, I was having to look for a place to stay, because I was living with my sister and my brother-in-law at the time, and Plan A didn't go through, Plan B fell through. So now.
Oh, you froze up a little bit. It's on him.
Okay, there we're back. But I was trying to find a place of my own at the time, and she was kind of in a stalemate with her family as well. She was living with her family in Jacksonville, and I think they were kind of trying to go into a different direction as well. And their family was expanding, and me and Jenny had discussed moving in together, but there was no real possibility because I didn't have any kind of rental history. I didn't have any kind of credit. It was just a lot of roadblocks along the way. But the way that we ended up in Nashville was because my cousin had actually called me and asked if I wanted to possibly be his roommate. Now, I gave this a lot of strong consideration with Jenny as well. And, with us being only, 6 to 8 months into our relationship, I had, thought about it, talked to my sister about it, and eventually told Jenny, I think this might be my only option. And I think, the unfortunate side of it is I might have to go on my own. And, I don't really know what to do here because I can't find a place. And, she had spoke with her family and talked to her family over, this difficult time we was facing and everything. And I was preparing to go on by myself, but she ended up coming to me and said that she spoke to her family and that they actually encouraged her to go with me and see if we could both just have a fresh start here in Nashville. So I spoke to my cousin about everything, and we decided that we could split the rent 3 ways. Everything would work out properly, and that's how we ended up here.
And how what's the timing here? So you moved to Nashville. What year was that? Do you remember?
I think it was like tail end of 04 or maybe right at the I think it was like the tail end of 04, honestly. Because I remember it was like cold when we were doing the road trip here to Nashville when I got here, and just the contrast of the weather from Florida to here hit me like a ton of bricks, I remember. And we got out to get gas, and I remember Jenny was like, "Oh my goodness, it's cold." So yeah, I think it was like maybe late November or something like that.
In 04. And then
Yeah.
when you guys got there, did she start looking for work or what happened?
Immediately. Yeah, she was very driven and always had a good work ethic. I think we put in applications both simultaneously at multiple different places, but I remember we tried Kroger, we tried Walgreens, anything that was local because we didn't have a car at the time. And I ended up getting a call back from White Castle, which was honestly like my last resort, but nothing was working out because I was so used to working overnight, doing overnight stock. And I had never worked in that field at all, but I got a call back from them, and I'm like, I'm just going to take this until something better comes along. And then I think she ended up getting a call back from, it was either Steak and Shake or Panera. But when she got her job, she excelled very fast and starting getting more and more hours, more and more hours. There was a point in time she was making more money than I was. And I was like, goodness, girl, slow down. But she loved making as much money as possible because she knew the more money, the more things that we could do. And the way that we had it worked out was my money would take care of all necessities. And then her money would only be for fun or any wants that we might have. That way I could alleviate any kind of pressure that she may have about feeling the need to work. So I wanted to go ahead and establish that. So I took care of all the bills, and any money that she made, we just used it for anything that we might want or want to go have fun and explore. And we took numerous road trips and stuff like that with it and everything.
How old were you guys? It sounds like you guys were struggling. It sounds like it was really difficult. How old were you at that time?
I think I was like 19. and she was 16 at the time. And then when we moved up to Nashville, she was 17 and I had just turned 20. We had like this 3.5-year age gap.
Okay. All right. So let's fast forward. Now we got more of the background. And so, how long were you together before she started seeing Steve McNair?
We were together for 4 years before any of that occurred.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you planning on getting married?
We had discussed it numerous times. Both of our families had encouraged us in that direction. But in all honesty, and it's something that sticks with me to this day, there were numerous occasions where she had brought the conversation up to me. And one that sticks out in my mind actually was when her sister, her oldest sister, had come into town to stay with us and visit. And we took her around town in Nashville and took her to the Opry Mills Mall and the Opryland Hotel. And her sister had a long conversation with me about getting married to Jenny and told me that Jenny really loved me and really wanted to get married and settle down and start a family and everything. And I told her that I absolutely planned on it. I just wanted to make sure that we were in a good position to do that. I didn't want us to fail. And financially, I just didn't feel like we were there at the moment. And when we were at the Opryland Hotel, actually, there was this podium that had been set up. I think somebody might have been getting ready to get married there. But Jenny grabbed my hand and took me up there onto that podium. And she just held my hands and looked me in my eyes. She said, "When are you going to ask me to marry you?" And I was so caught off guard. I was just like, I promise I am. I said, I don't think we're ready. And she was like, "Well, I am." And that was that conversation. That was the final conversation we ever had about marriage. And I never asked her. And that will stick with me for the rest of my life because I think that had a lot to do with what ended up transpiring afterwards. And it's just it's a heartbreaking memory of mine. But yeah, we definitely had those conversations, and I definitely planned on asking her, and she definitely wanted to, but never had the opportunity.
So I'm sorry that happened.
Yeah, that's horrible.
That's really heartbreaking. And to look back on it and see what transpired afterwards, you can't blame yourself for that. Fate has its way of working through things. Obviously wasn't meant to be. But so after you broke up, well, actually tell us that story. When did you end up splitting apart?
And was that after that moment at the Opryland Hotel thing? Was that kind of the beginning of the downturn, or is it just how soon after that did you guys break up?
No, actually, that our relationship was going very well, even beyond that point. But what ended up actually causing the breakup was, I think, the level of maturity as we grew together, where I had went from, this 19, 20-year-old to now, I'm 23 and, I'm beyond my party days at this point. That's not interesting to me. I'm wanting to experience life. I'm wanting to travel more. I'm wanting to do, all of these things as an exclusive couple and, without alcohol or anything like that. I'm sorry, my cat is coming up. She was just now kind of entering that phase where she had now, surpassed becoming an adult. And then now she was getting really into going out with friends, going to the club, which is completely understandable. And there was a time frame where both of us would go together. But it just, as time went along, the later days of our relationship, I found my solace in staying staying home and making it kind of like a movie night, or ordering some takein or something like that. And she was still kind of wanting to go out, but she had changed jobs and met a few friends in particular that were very much so into partying and drinking, and likewise, I mean, that's completely understandable as well. But they were very, very encouraging in that direction. And they were all single girls. And while Jenny was in a serious relationship and living with her boyfriend, they were more of the single life and getting out, going out, partying, and wanted her to be the same. And so anytime that we had any kind of disagreement, it would reach that friend group, and then that friend group would have their input, and then it would get blown out of proportion much more than what it should have, to be quite honest. And it led to much more partying, much more going out, and eventually some serious discussions between the two of us, where I actually would end up giving her an ultimatum and telling her, listen, this is where I am in life. This is where I am with our relationship. And this is where my expectations are for us. And you got to find what you prioritize the most. Like, I understand where you are and what you're interested in doing. I was there before too, but this is reality. This is where we are. And if you continue to go out and keep partying and coming in like late at night, everything like that, we're going to have to figure something else out. Unfortunately, she didn't take it serious, but I was very serious in the moment. And the behavior continued, and it eventually led to me breaking up with her.
Oh, and then what year was that? Do you remember?
Honestly, I think that was maybe early to mid 08. And the ironic thing is we had just purchased and paid off a cruise to Hawaii. And we had even joked with each other about, our relationship was like way up here at the time when we had purchased and paid that off. And we were looking forward to it. And we joked with each other as we made the last payment online. No matter what happens, we better not break up. And we sarcastically said that to each other and started laughing. But ironically enough, that's what actually ended up happening. And, that's what ended up being so wild as well, because, we went totally different directions at the time, where, a lot of young couples, when you do that, you get, into this whole, well, who's going to break first? Who's going to cave? Who's going to say, I'm sorry? We were still living together and stuck in a lease, so we couldn't move out. And that's what made it that much more complicated while we were there. And while, our pride started to really get in the way, and nobody broke, nobody caved, nobody apologized, she started entertaining the idea of seeing other guys. And when I noticed that starting to occur, I did as well. And then it just turned into this big jealousy game between the two of us. And that's where the major down spiral began.
Right. So how long did you guys live together before did she eventually move out, or was she still there with living with you when she started seeing Steve McNair?
No, she had moved out, I think a couple months before she started seeing Steve McNair. But the first interaction with Steve McNair actually occurred while we were still living together. We were living together for about 3.5 years. Because, we were together down in Jacksonville, and then came up here, and we were living together the entire time until she eventually moved out. But a lot of people don't understand this as well. But Steve McNair was not the only athlete that was trying to talk to Jenny by any means. And I've spoke on this before, and it hasn't really ever been paid attention to. But Steve McNair came, way further along in the breakup. But actually, there was a couple of Titans. I'm not going to name their names out of respect for them and whatever's going on with them, their families in the future or whatever. But there were some pretty prominent Tennessee Titans that were talking to her on a regular basis because she was working at Dave & Buster's at the time. And as I stated before, our game of jealousy that we were so enveloped in at the time, where we were trying to make the other one jealous, she knew I was this huge Tennessee Titans fan. And I think initially she had no drive to really take it any further than talking. But anytime that they tried to flirt or talk with her or give them her number or give her their number, she would take it and then try to show it to me or have me come across it somehow. So a couple of Tennessee Titans, actually a few Tennessee Titans that in that time frame that were on the team. But the way that I found out about McNair was while we were actually in our bedroom at the time, and she was getting ready to go out, and I was sitting on the bed because I was getting ready to go out as well with some of my friends, and she had something sitting on the bed, and it was like this plush that she had got from something or whatever, and it was signed by McNair, and she said, "Oh yeah, I told him." Yeah, he came in there with his family, and he was with his sons and his wife, and I told him that my boyfriend was like a big fan of his, and she gave that to me, and I was like, I don't want this, and it ended up to being a bigger discussion than that, and that's when she ended up confessing, well, he's not that great of a guy anyways, because he actually slid me his number under the table on a napkin. And she said his wife was there and everything. And that's how I found out about it. Now, mind you, this is coming from her. This was he said, she said, coming from her. I had no proof that that's actually, how everything went down. But that was when the initial conversation of McNair even popped up. But apparently after that, he ended up coming back numerous times to that same location and was very, into her. It was clear. And he was constantly trying to get her attention and get her to engage with him. And eventually, I think after the fact that she moved out because she got a roommate, moved into an apartment complex on the other side of Hermitage from where we were living. And I was actually talking to a woman at the time I had been introduced to by my sister, who would actually eventually end up becoming my wife later on. And because I think how serious that was going, that's what led to her moving out, because she saw that occurring, and then ended up taking him up on whatever he had been offering her at the time.
And she was very young, though. She was like 21 years old or 20 years old at the time.
He was 20, not even 21.
She was very, very young. So she was really still very immature, it sounds like, dealing with relationships. And you were pretty solid on what you wanted, it seems.
Yeah.
At that time. Even though she was trying to make you jealous, I mean, how did you feel about that?
Well, the truth was, and I mean, like I say, pride had got in the way numerous times with both of us. And I mean, there were so many times that one of us should have spoken up, but we didn't. And but the truth was, I mean, anytime that I saw her get dressed up and go out, even if I was going out myself and getting dressed up and going to hang out with friends, it broke my heart. It was heartbreaking because I still was wholeheartedly in love with her and still wanted a future with her. But being just young and naive and inexperienced in that category, I didn't really know how to handle myself. So all I knew how to do was just do what she was doing. And I think that's the problem, because I think that's what she was doing with me as well. And this was unfamiliar territory for both of us, but it was genuinely heartbreaking for me. I was crushed on a daily while this all transpired. I didn't show it. I made it a point not to show it to her, but I hated every minute of it, because as time went by, I mean, I wanted to, just hug her, tell her I was sorry, but I mean, it still wouldn't solve the problem. So I really didn't know what to do at that point.
And then when did you meet your wife? Did you meet your wife during that time when she was still there or after she left?
Well, I met her, and that's actually what genuinely led to our last moment together, really, like until she moved out. But like I was saying before, we had already bought and paid for this trip to Hawaii, and Jenny was actually talking to another guy who was not McNair or an athlete, just a regular guy who was, working a regular 9 to 5 like I was. And they were actually getting pretty serious. Now, it was unbeknownst to me. I didn't know this, but she was actually getting pretty serious with him. And he had actually confessed to her that he was starting to fall in love with her. I didn't know this until we had a very serious discussion, but I was starting to gain feelings, very unfamiliar territory for me, because I was still in love with Jenny, but starting to gain feelings for the woman that I was talking to, that my sister had introduced me to. And it was a very confusing time for me. But all while this was going on, before Jenny had moved out, there was a moment where she did let her guard down, come and speak to me, and said, "Hey, we have this trip coming up, and I've thought about this for a very long time. And I think that no matter what we got going on right now, I think we need to set it all to the side, give our relationship the respect that it deserves. Since we've been together for so long and been through so much together, I think that we owe it to our relationship and everything that we've been through to go on this trip and give it one more try." And, everything that she was saying, I definitely wanted to hear and was completely on board with doing, but I was also very nervous about getting, reacquainted with her in that direction and getting back into a relationship, because I knew the issue that was at hand was she was still in this whole time frame of wanting to go out, and I wasn't. And regardless of that, I ended up agreeing to go. And we had made, it a point to be completely honest with each other throughout this entire time and talk everything through. And that's when I found out about the guy. She told me about the guy that she had been seeing and that he had confessed he had started falling in love with her. It made her feel really weird and was kind of pushing her away, because she knew that she was still in love with me, but didn't know how to handle that. And I told her, well, that's kind of ironic, because I'm in, kind of the same situation, but, I don't feel that way either, because I'm still in love with you, but I also have these issues that we need to kind of rise above if we're going to be able to get anywhere. And then also not addressing the elephant in the room, but you've become acquainted with some Tennessee Titans. How in the world are we going to be able to work beyond that? I mean, I watch these guys every Sunday. I go to games. Like, how am I supposed to root for these guys that we're now talking back and forth with, the girl that I'm in love with? It's just wild to me. But regardless of the fact, we decided to give it a try. And it wasn't until we were on our way back from Hawaii. It was a very long flight. We had basically come to the conclusion that we were going to get back and we were going to work this out. But she told me, I'm going to write some things on this piece of paper, and I want you to be completely honest. These are some questions that I haven't wanted to ask you, but I want you to please be completely honest. And then if you have any that you've been wanting to ask as well, I want you to be, just straightforward and blunt with me, and I will answer them honestly, I promise. We're going down this list of questions, really tough ones that we were not asking each other. Have you been with anybody else? Did you do this? Did you do that? And we're making it through. We're everything seems to be, falling in line pretty good. And then she gets to this one question and she says, do you love her? Are you starting to get, any feelings in that direction towards her? And I didn't want to, hesitate because I knew what I wanted, but at the same time, I didn't want to lie to her. So with everything that we had already put out on the table, I just answered and I said, I don't know. I don't know. There was something, but I don't know. And that right there was enough for her to take the paper. She crumbled it up. She said, when we get back, I'm packing my things and I'm moving out.
This podcast is supported by MIDI Health. Are you in midlife, feeling dismissed, unheard, or just plain tired of the old healthcare system? You're not alone. In fact, even today, 75% of women seeking care for menopause and perimenopause issues are left entirely untreated. But it's time for a change. It's time for MIDI. MIDI's not just a healthcare provider. It's a women's telehealth clinic founded and supported by world-class leaders in women's health. Their clinicians provide one-on-one, face-to-face consultations where they truly listen to your unique needs. They offer a full range of holistic, data-driven solutions that isn't one-size-fits-all care. This is care uniquely tailored for you. At MIDI, you will find that their mission is clear: to help all women thrive in midlife, giving them access to the healthcare they deserve. Because they believe midlife isn't the middle at all. It is the beginning of your second act. Ready to feel your best and write your second act script? Visit joinmidi.com today to book your personalized, insurance-covered virtual visit. That's joinmidi.com. MIDI, the care women deserve.
I saw this app. I got a hit.
In the new limited series, DTF St. Louis, Jason Bateman, David Harbour, and Linda Cardellini star as three suburbanites who spice up their love lives.
Wow.
Don't miss the new HBO original limited series, DTF St. Louis, Sundays at 9 on HBO Max.
Starting a business can seem like a daunting task, unless you have a partner like Shopify. They have the tools you need to start and grow your business. From designing a website to marketing to selling and beyond, Shopify can help with everything you need. There's a reason millions of companies like Mattel, Heinz, and Allbirds continue to trust and use them. With Shopify on your side, turn your big business idea into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Adobe Acrobat Studio, your new foundation. Use PDF spaces to generate a presentation. Grab your docs, your permits, your moves. AI levels up your pitch, gets it in a groove. Choose a template with your timeless cool. Come on now, let's flex those tools. Draft, design, deliver, make it sing. AI builds the deck so you can build that thing. Do that, do that, do that with Acrobat.
Learn more at adobe.com/do-that-with-acrobat.
And I was just like, what? Like, what just happened? And she did exactly that.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Well, so then how much time transpired from that moment to when you discovered or you found out about her horrible death?
Well, I would give it maybe like a couple of months, because I'm not gonna lie, going through that whole breakup and then watching her move out and having to stay there until the lease was up, It was horrible. I mean, that
Sounds
was one of the
awful.
darkest. It is. It was one. I mean, because I was left with all the memories of us.
Right.
And, we had been there together. I'd never lived there on my own. This was always with her. And then, excuse me, to have, her seemingly, leave and then just start this whole new life, I knew it was probably scary for her, but also exciting and everything. So to have that happening on one side of the spectrum while I'm left in everything that's just ashes and, and I'm left to just clean it all up. I'm like, oh my goodness, I did not anticipate how horrible that was going to feel. And it was really at that time where I just wished that I had set my pride aside and really just stopped all the nonsense and spoke to her. But it was too little too late. I did try after the fact. I had even spoke to my friends, my family. I'm like, I love her. I love her. I can't continue like this. I need her to know that, like, regardless of what she decides to do, that, like, that's not what I want. Like, I don't want her to believe otherwise. I need her to know, like, she is who I want to be with. And I tried in numerous different ways that, a young guy possibly could that had no experience in the area. And it was all kind of falling on deaf ears. There were a couple of breakthroughs here and there where I would write a song or something like that and send it to her. And there was actually a couple of times where I thought we were actually going to get back together. But I think she was so heavy into her new life at this point in time. It was way too hard for someone her age, with her experience to go back. But it was actually when because I was making music at the time. I was with a buddy of mine who he had a child with one of Jenny's very close friends, like ever since we had been in Nashville. They had been like that, very, very close. And we were sitting there and I was, mixing some recordings we had just done for one of his songs. And he looked at me and was like, man, bro, he's like, I don't know how you do it. I'm like, yeah, man, it's tough, but I got to do what I got to do. He's like, nah, man, like, I don't know how in the world you live with what's, going on. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, man, you haven't heard? He's like, have you talked to Kayla, which is what Jenny's friend's name was? And I'm like, nah, I haven't spoke to her in a long time. I haven't even seen her since me and Jenny broke up. And he's like, bro, man, he's like, I know you had mentioned before about her meeting McNair, and I know how that stung. He's like, bro, but from what I hear from Kayla, she's actually like dating him. And I was just like, what? He's like, yeah, bro, like they are dating like on a very serious level. I'm like, how is that even possible? I'm like, he's got a whole wife and kids and family. I'm like, I'm like, nah, man, like, I think you're maybe over exaggerating. He's like, bro, I'm telling you right now, if what I'm hearing is true, he's like, his wife and kids obviously don't matter because he's spending a lot of time with her and he's already been to her apartment and everything. I'm like, wow. So that's when I found out the very first time that they had actually really got acquainted like that.
And how long after you guys had broken up was that, you think?
About a month and a half, 2 months after the fact.
Pretty quick. And it's heartbreaking. First love, sounds like first love, is very difficult.
Well, I mean, yeah. And then you tap onto the fact Steve McNair was genuinely my favorite football player of all time. Like, that was
what are the odds of her dating him? How does it even happen?
I can't even fathom. Like, I have genuinely looked it up on the internet and tried to find anybody who's ever been in similar shoes where they might have lost a person they love to someone of that stature that's like a celebrity and especially their favorite. You know what I mean? It's like ever since I was a kid, I would argue to no end with my friends on behalf of Steve McNair. Like there was no better quarterback, no better player in the NFL. He's the toughest. He deserves all the accolades. Peyton Manning didn't deserve the MVP, all that. And to go from that to like now the woman that I have loved more than anybody, that I was closer to than my own family, is now dating him. Just completely unreal. I can't. To this day, I'm just like, how?
Well, I think we have to clarify a little bit, because for people to understand, like Dave and Buster's was a place where all these football players would hang out. Yes. And it's kind of, I mean, when I lived in Boston, there was a place where the Patriots would hang out, and I was a waitress, and they would come in and we would hang out with them. And I had friends that dated some of them. So I get that part, but people, might not understand that, because Nashville is a small town, and they all would go hang out at this place where Jenny was working, Dave and Buster. So she was meeting them on a regular basis, just when they would come in to the work. And from what you're saying, it sounds like she was attractive and had a really good personality. So she was drawing these guys in, and she was young. She was very immature. So she was probably doing it at, couldn't believe it was happening either. I mean, if you were this shocked, I'm sure she was too. Like, I'm sure she didn't realize, like, oh my God, this is like, I'm dating Steve McNair. I'm sure it was very exciting for her in the beginning, but I mean, I just think you get caught up in that world very quickly, and it's very superficial. He had a wife, he had kids. It wasn't like it was real. You know what I mean? So for you, it must have been really difficult to watch that.
Well, see, and another thing that I feel like gets very misconstrued with, how the media has reported on that as well. And what a lot of people don't understand is, Jenny was from Iran, and, she had lived in multiple different countries before she even migrated to the U.S. And, American football was not at the top of her list of importance. Even if you thought of sports, it's soccer to her, but she didn't really care about sports to begin with. So meeting McNair, she knew of McNair because of me and because of my interest in the Titans and being a fan of them and him being my favorite football player. And as I stated before, he had hit on her and made a pass at her and gave her his number well before we broke up. Or actually, like, well before she moved out. I'm sorry. Let me clarify there. We had broken up, but well before she'd moved out. She didn't actually act on any of that until the fact that she was, a month and a half, 2 months removed from moving out. And I was already pursuing, the relationship or whatever that was at the time with the girl I was talking to. And whenever she saw that, that's when, and that's why I have said multiple times, and even people that, friends of mine, friends of hers that have been close to her, they know this push and pull that was going on between the two of us. And I think that had a lot to do with her actually taking him up on the offer initially that he was giving at the time. Now, what transpired after that, if she genuinely started to actually have feelings or fall in love or anything like that, there's real possibility there. I mean, especially when you got all of the status and the money and, I'll just be honest. I mean, he's probably filling her with a multitude of lies at the time, as guys like that do, unfortunately, on a regular basis with, younger women who are, got stars in their eyes at the time, and, he's trying to influence just to get her in the direction that he wants her to go. But everyone on that outside can see that happening. And she can't, because she's stuck in this bubble. And the only thing that she's hearing is what's coming from him. So all she knows is, well, this 4-year relationship of mine just ended in the worst way possible. He's moving on, and I got an opportunity to not only get ahead in life, but I got this guy who's got this status in Nashville where he's got the key to the city. He's beloved by everyone, and he's got a lot of money, and he's just showering me with affection right now.
Mm-hmm.
So why not? You know, when you look at it like that, why not?
Right.
But on my end, on the outside looking in, I mean, it's torment. I'm looking at it like, man, I know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly what's happening, but there is absolutely no way that I can think of to properly get this message across. And I mean, endless amounts of attempts to try music, emails, texts, you know, your typical, you know, brokenhearted, you know, significant other that's been broken up with or whatever. You know?
Yeah. So you knew she was going to end up in a fall with McNair at some point, where he's just.
I absolutely knew and anticipated that it was going to end at some point. I was just really concerned at like where she would be with it, because I know we had just been with, you know, this whole thing that we went through, and I can't imagine on my side of it if I were to be put in that position and then all of a sudden have the rug pulled out from underneath me, you know, when it's like you go full-fledged in this direction as she was, and then all of a sudden that person that you're all googly-eyed over just and then disappears and goes right back to their normal life. And I knew that was going to happen. Everybody else did too. A lot of people tried to talk to her, and I think she was very well aware, and she was trying to keep herself grounded. But at the same time, I mean, he had a strong influence, very strong influence.
Yeah.
I mean,
all right. So let's talk about when you found out about when she died and you heard about the whole thing. Where were you? What was going through your mind? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it was actually July 3rd. I was actually with a friend of mine, and I was working, and you know, we had been spending a couple of days together, me and my friend, and he had actually ended up getting into an argument with his girlfriend that was living with him at the time, and he had called me while I was at work on July 3rd and was like, "Hey, do you mind if you come and get me?" He's like, "I just told my girlfriend to just drop me off. I'm over here in Target's parking lot and I'm far from my house." And I'm like, "Bro, I'm at work. I'm going to be here till 3:00 in the morning. I'm closing." I'm like, "If you can get here, like, yeah, you can hang out and I'll get you something to eat and everything." He's like, "Well, do you have a lunch break or anything?" I'm like, "Yeah, but it's in a couple hours." So he's like, "Well, I'll hang out here at Target if you can come and get me on your lunch break." So that's what I did. And I took a lunch break. I spent like 10, 15 minutes going to pick him up, came back, and he came in, I fed him, and then he ended up actually taking a nap in my car until we end up going back to my place. And he crashes out on my couch, and I go up to I lived in a loft apartment in Hermitage at the time. I go up to my bed, and I kid you not, I felt like my life was in such disarray at the time. And I remember staring at my ceiling that night on July 3rd and just thinking to myself, like, how in the world did my life end up like this? How did I get here? You know, 6-7 months ago, it was nowhere near this point, and it's just so out of whack. And I fell asleep on that thought. But little did I know it was about to get as worse as it could possibly get for anyone. I woke up the next morning. I knew it was 4th of July. I knew I had to work, but I was not looking forward to all of it. I was dealing with such deep depression at the time. But I remember looking at my phone. I had a few texts from my family and one text from my buddy. And he was like, hey, I left out early. I locked your button lock on your door handle. But I did forget a couple things. I had my buddy come and get me, but I'm gonna come back and get him. And I was like, okay, that's fine. So I put on a pot of coffee, and I'm just kind of moping around my apartment until I have to go to work that day. And I end up getting a phone call from that same buddy of mine, and I didn't pick it up. And then he calls back, and then he calls back and calls back, and I finally pick it up. And I'm like, hey, man, what's going on? He's like, hey, are you near a TV? And I'm like, yeah, why? What's going on? He's like, bro, turn on the TV right now. I'm like, why? What happened? I'm thinking he's going to tell me like somebody got traded or just something regarding sports. He's like, Steve McNair is dead. And I'm like, no, man, no way. No. And I turn on the TV and he's like, bro, they're saying that he got found. I think he's like shot or stabbed. There's a lot of people saying that he might have got robbed downtown. And I'm like sitting here thinking, I'm like, well, who did it? Who did it? And I'm like, surely, like it's downtown Nashville. Like you're not going to do something like that and get away with it. He's like, I don't know. There's very vague details. This is just breaking right now. So sure enough, I turn on the TV. Every news station is reporting on it. And I'm like, bro, I got to call you back. He's like, yeah, call me back, bro. So I call my family. None of them knew. Nobody. I call both of my sisters and they're like, are you sure? Are you sure? And we all turn on TV. We're watching it together. And then it just out of nowhere hit me like a ton of bricks. And it's like my heart just sunk. I'm like, where's Jenny? Where's Jenny? And while I had not been texting, while I had not been calling, I've been kind of going no contact with her at the time. I immediately started texting, hey, I need you, first off, I need to know you're okay. I need to know what's going on with you. Where are you? Are you okay? Are you safe? Do you need help? I mean, just exploding text messages to her phone. No response. And I'm like, I have my sister on speaker while I'm texting, and I'm like, hey, let me call her. And they're like, okay, call me back. So I call, voicemail. I start leaving voicemails. And then as I'm leaving a voicemail, I just start crying on the voicemail. And I'm like, please call me back. Please just call me back. Like, I just need to know you're okay. Everything they're saying on the news, like, I know, you've been having something going on with you. I just need to know you're safe. Nothing. And then I remember just hanging the phone up and falling to my knees and just crying. And I call my sister back. I'm still, whimpering on the phone. And I'm like, she's not answering me. And that's when it all just kind of, it's like time just slowed down. And it is so, I don't know. It was almost like this nightmare. You know how like dreams are real hazy?
Yeah.
It's like my mind was in so many different places at once. It's all like when I try to recall it, it's like recalling a nightmare, like where things are just so hazy. I remember having an outburst emotionally. I broke my door when I found out that she was actually involved in there. Now, it wasn't confirmed at the time, but when they said that the black Escalade was outside and they showed caution tape around it and they reported that there was a woman, I lost it. I completely lost it. And my family was still trying to be reassuring. They were still trying to, be positive. And I'm like, the black Escalade is there. They're saying a woman's with her. And I'm just like, I don't even know how to process this. Like, and I just remember that was probably the closest that I've ever been to like an emotional breakdown, if not at that point in time, where it was just like uncontrollable tears. trembling, couldn't stand, wanted to vomit. It was just horrible. But yeah, that's how I found out on the TV.
Did you talk to her family?
Yeah, I mean, we conversed back and forth and everything, but when things started to get really hazy about their findings at the scene, then I could tell her family was starting to pull away. And I remember seeing an interview with her nephew, which it was kind of an odd way that her family kind of was, because her nephew and niece were actually older than her because of how old her sister was, and her mom had actually passed away in Iran, and she was kind of raised by her older sister, so she kind of referred to her as mom. But her nephew was interviewed by the local news when he came back into town in Nashville and was getting her belongings from the apartment. And I remember seeing him say, well, they need to look further into her ex-boyfriend. And I'm like, oh my God.
Wow.
Like, yeah. And that's when kind of like things started to really click with me. And I'm like, if he thinks this way, like, there's no telling what the general public is going to think. And boy, did it flip on me in a heartbeat. I had no time to grieve, because it was very shortly after that I had to go from trying to process what happened to now defending myself and where I was, my whereabouts, and my involvement with Jenny at the time. And I mean, absolutely everything was being dissected and put under a magnifying glass, and just everybody was running with any little possible detail. And there was so many people across this nation and beyond that were just already dead set on the fact that I was guilty, and there was nothing anybody was going to tell them that was going to change their mind.
So what was your first contact with law enforcement? When did they come to you?
I went to them.
Oh, you did?
They didn't come to me. I went to them. I went to them prior to the fact of anyone finding out that it was actually Jenny, and they wouldn't release any information. My dad had come over and my sisters had come over before they'd even announced the fact that there was a woman that was present. And when we couldn't get in touch with Jenny, my dad had come over and he's like, hey, do you want to go over to her apartment? Do you want to check on her and see if she's okay? Maybe she's just really distraught by what happened. So I'm like, okay. And I was extremely hopeful at the time, but I was also worried sick that if we got there and she wasn't there, like this was going to be, like I need to ready myself for the moment that if she possibly didn't answer the door. But here's a detail for you that a lot of people never knew or got released into the media. But when we showed up to the apartment, there was a handful of people that were standing outside, but there was no police. There was no news media, nothing of that sort. There were just neighbors that I guess maybe knew her or knew where she lived, and maybe were worried the same. But we pulled up. My sister went to her door, knocks on the door, but the door was already cracked open. She knocks on the door and it opens further. When she moved the door open, all the lights were off, but her apartment looked ransacked, like it had been ran through. Right. So she comes back and she's like, Keith, something ain't sitting right. Something doesn't seem right here. She's like, I'm not going up there and you don't need to step foot near that doorstep. She's like, but her door was open, Keith. and there ain't no lights on and there's stuff thrown everywhere. She's like, is that the way that she keeps her apartment? Is she messy like that? I'm like, no, she is very clean about herself. I'm like, and I had been there. I had been there quite a few times, and I knew there was no way it should have looked that way. So I'm like, what do you mean? I'm trying to get full detail here. And she's like, Keith, I'm not going in there. I'm not going in there, but we need to tell the cops because something isn't right here. This feels really off. So we're sitting in the car. My dad is like, hey, let's go down to the police station. Let's see if they know anything. You tell them you're trying to get in touch with Jenny. Explain to them everything, her involvement with McNair, everything you know, and maybe they'll give you something just so we can find out she's good, she's safe, she's okay. So I'm like, okay. That sounds like a good plan. Everybody's kind of calming down. But while we're sitting there, a neighbor, an older woman, walks up. She said, hey, I noticed you went up to Jenny's apartment. And she was like, are y'all family of hers or anything? And I'm like, I interrupted. I'm like, hey, I'm her ex-boyfriend, but we're still good friends. I'm trying to check on her because I heard some wild things about Steve McNair, and she just shook her head. She's like, yeah, I know. She was she was dating him. And I was like, yeah, and she's like, well, yeah, he's been over here quite a few times. It's been kind of common knowledge by everyone that kind of lived in the area that he would show up and everything. But she was like, I haven't seen her around in a few days. She said, but there is something that stands out to me. And I was hoping that maybe you guys could explain. And I kid you not, what this woman told me, how it is gone completely ignored is just beyond my imagination. But she stated that there were two African-American males, maybe like, late 20s to mid 30s, dressed in all black, that were in a silver car, that were parked right outside of her doorway, that were running in and out of her apartment numerous times while she was outside. And she said she witnessed them going in with black trash bags and coming out with those black trash bags full and loading them into the trunk of that car. And then they went in and out 3 or 4 times and left. And she told us that day. So we took that information immediately, along with the fact that that door was left open, to the police, and told this to the police that day before they had even released the information about the fact that Jenny was the woman who was found with him.
Wow.
And they didn't do anything about that.
Did nothing. They did absolutely nothing about that. I heard nothing about a follow-up. I heard nothing about anything that had occurred that day. And I didn't even see it reported on what the neighbor had witnessed, and even had given that information to numerous different news media outlets, and they never reported on it. That blew my mind. I could not understand for the life of me how in the world such a key piece of evidence could be left out of such a magnitude of a story like this. Made no sense.
Who owned the silver car? Did we ever find out who owned the silver car?
Well, I can't speak. Let me try and do this properly, but I know what I have come to the conclusion of. Now, mind you, I'm in no position officially or licensed to come out and say, hey, this is what happened. This is what transpired. And this is the people that were tied to what happened. But according to what I have heard from people who are much more qualified than me, that have actually done a full-on private investigation, as you know, Vincent Hill, and he's come forward about this as well. He knows of the 2 men, and he knows that that car belonged to one of the two men that he has publicly called out. Now, I'm not going to do that personally because I'm just going to be honest. You know, I don't want to make any accusations. I don't want to force speculation, and I don't want to encourage people to believe the way that I do. I'm just going to encourage people to do their own due diligence and do their own research. It's not hard. Doesn't take much digging. And if you want to know the answer to that, look up Vincent Hill, and I'm sure you will find it. But yes, there are two particular men who are indeed tied to that particular vehicle, and it has been reported on. It has been brought to the police, and it has continued to be ignored.
Wow.
So you were suspect number one, it seems like. So did the police question you, or what happened then?
Actually,
you went to the police, and then what happened?
Yes, when I went to the police, I gave them everything that I possibly could in that first visit at the police station. But like I said, they couldn't, release any information to me at the time. But when everything started getting really wild as far as the media goes, and I started seeing, news reports and people, public figures start to talk about this and my name getting brought up in a negative light. Excuse me, I'm sorry. After talking with my family, I'm like, I need to go and talk to them. I have clear-cut evidence of my whereabouts. I'm on camera. My work schedule is right there. They can go to my job. They can pull my clock in, clock out records. They can see where I am. They have me on video. I have even my buddy was at my apartment July 3rd when I got off from work. And I mean, there's a witness, an eyewitness there. There's multiple outlets for me to know where I am. So I wanted to take any and all speculation off of me. And I wanted it to start to go in the direction of where it needed to, because I knew the more that I found out, the more that I heard, I did not believe that what they were saying was the truth. I did not believe that she had done this. I did not believe that she was guilty of anything. I felt that they were murdered. I felt that this was either some kind of botched robbery or this was a setup altogether. And I just always felt like there's much more to this story, and they need to get to the bottom of this. And the only way they can is to start weeding out, all of the nonsense so they can really focus on what's really going on here. So I went to them immediately and I talked to the two lead detectives. I gave them my phone. I was like, take everything. Take everything. You're more than welcome. You come to my house. You can search my house. You can search my car. Please go to my job. Get my clock in, clock out records. I'm on camera. Talk to everybody that I know. I'll be more than willing to cooperate because I don't think she did this. And I gave them my phone. They had my phone for like 2 or 3 days and then eventually gave it back. And what really bothers me is the way that they handled it after the fact, was because as more and more time went by, more and more speculation started to emerge. And then they started digging deep into my social media, and they saw, old posts on MySpace or Facebook where I had been kind of subtly trying to maybe get Jenny's attention because I missed her or something like that. Or they would come across a song that I wrote on my MySpace music page where it was clearly talking about a regret and a breakup and still being in love with her and wanting her back. But then they find this other song that I had written like months prior to this situation that, for the life of me, this is another thing that I cannot explain to you, how it lined up in such a horrible way to go against me. But there was a situation that had happened between my sister and my brother-in-law. And I actually ended up kind of lashing out against my brother-in-law. I specifically stated his name in the song. But this was not a nice song at the time at all. They took this song and they played the entire song on the news from front to back. And they said this song was wrote by Jenny's ex-boyfriend about Steve McNair. And I'm like, it's got my brother-in-law's name in the very beginning of the song. Like, I'm clearly talking about him and what happened with them. And that was used against me. So, I mean, that just made it even worse. So time's going by. Now I start getting hateful messages that start turning into death threats. And it moved me to the point to where it got so bad that the media started camping out outside of my apartment. I had to leave Hermitage, disappear off into Lebanon. When that happens, just so I can just kind of get away and get some peace and some sleep, then they're like, oh, he's running. And I'm like, I'm running from you, not this. Like, they were just taking anything that they could to try and make it seem like it was something that it wasn't when it came to me. And finally, I called the police department again because I had followed up with them and visited with the 2 lead detectives on multiple occasions. And they even stated to me personally that there are many things that did not add up to them, and they fully anticipated and expected to go further into this, to look into it, because things just didn't add up on their end either. But they said they needed my further cooperation in anything that I could offer because they knew I had nothing to do with it at this point. And that at that point, I ended up getting reports back from my job. They came, they got the clock in, clock out records, they got the cameras and all that stuff. So they knew I had nothing. 30 days goes by, a month, while the nation is blaming me for all of this. 30 days they sat on their hands and never said a word until finally I'm calling, I'm begging, because I had almost got jumped by a group of guys that recognized who I was in Lebanon when I was walking to the gas station. I had no car at the time. I'm walking to the gas station to go and get a pack of cigarettes because of how stressed out I was. And they start yelling my name, going the opposite way of me on the road. They pull off, do a U-turn, come back, come into the parking lot and hop out of the car. Yeah. They're like, oh, do that to us. They're yelling at me, do that to us. And you know what they're getting at. So yeah. I'm like, I don't know what y'all are talking about. I don't know who y'all are. So I go to start walking back into the gas station, and luckily a cop is coming out with a coffee, and he walks out the gas station door, and they're still yelling things at me, and then they get back in their car and they leave. And he's like, are you all right? You got a problem with those guys? I'm like, I have no idea who they are, but I didn't go into detail. Mm-hmm. I just walked there. I called my sister and I'm like, hey, you might need to come and get me because this is dangerous. That night I called the police and I'm like, please release the information you have regarding me because people think I've done this and this is getting dangerous. And that night I deleted my MySpace, my Facebook. I think I had a Twitter. I don't know. But one of the most painful things I had to do was all of the work that I had done and put into the music that I had written and wrote. I deleted that as well. And back then there was no way to salvage any of that. So you basically lose everything. So I lost it all and just went completely dark. And that even added more fuel to the fire. But finally, and luckily, the chief of police actually held a press conference shortly after that and said that I was no longer considered a suspect. Oh, and that was, yeah.
Listen, it's crazy. I'm so sorry you went through this. I think we have so much more to ask you, but we're running out of time real quick. What I'd love to do is maybe have you on again and maybe have you on with Vincent as well.
Oh, that would be amazing. All right. Yeah. I love Vincent, and he has so much more to bring to the table, forensically, scientifically, and with his expertise and his background. I mean, all I can bring to the table is my eyewitness and my relationship with Jenny, but he can bring to the table a lot more of the other side and, facts, and actual evidence to prove that there's some foul play.
Your story is very compelling, and it's important because I also want to ask you about her personality. Was she violent? Did she ever show those kinds of
There's so many things.
There's so many things. I want people to understand that this was a young girl. She was very young and immature, and she got caught up in a world that she probably had no idea what was really going on. That's what it sounds like to me. And I really want people to understand that because she's been painted in such a horrible light by this whole thing. And we really want to expose that.
Yeah.
So I think it's important for you to come back on. So
we got so many other questions for
ask you more questions and, get Vincent's perspective and
other people's perspective.
What a tragedy you've been through. And we're so sorry you've had to go through it. It sounds horrifying at such a young age to have to deal with something like this.
Yeah. And well, unfortunately, a lot of people would think at this point that, you would be better, to an extent, be able to move on. But when something like that happens,
you never change.
No. And the fact that, there's constant reminders every 4th of July that rolls around, a holiday that everyone's celebrating. I have the memory of this. Every time the Titans play, I'm reminded. Every time. We got a new quarterback, Cam Ward. Who is he compared to all the time? Steve McNair.
Yeah.
And, and it's what a lot of people don't understand is while, I've grieved Jenny from the moment that I found out that she was devastatingly, and tragically involved in this. Also, my childhood hero also lost his life. And while there's a lot of conflicted emotions and feelings in that direction, a lot of people might not believe it, but there's some grieving there as well. I'm sad at the fact that he lost his life the way that he did. He's got kids, he's got sons that I'm sure are just terribly affected by this. And they're reminded of it. They have to live with it. And he's got family. I know his mother is completely torn up. I'm mourning for them as well. So a lot of people wouldn't think so because of how everything transpired, but it's a reality because it stings. Just like I noticed it, when Cam Ward was being compared here lately to McNair. And I was just like, I remember, I think to myself, man, I miss seeing that guy play. Yeah. And it's just like, it's so frustrating and hurtful that all happened because I would give anything for them to have never have met and just, even if I never ended up with Jenny, her just be married with a beautiful family somewhere else and him be with his family and his sons and just alive and well and having a retirement ceremony with the Titans. And I'll give anything if that could happen, but it's just, there's so many conflicted emotions that I can't even try to begin to explain, but
Yeah, I can't imagine, but thank you so much for your time. And like I said, we're definitely going to have you back on because there's still so much information and we appreciate you being so articulate about all this and vulnerable to share all this stuff. And I know it's not easy, but we really appreciate it. And I think it's for the greater good.
Well, I definitely appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for having me on and actually giving me a platform and a voice. Hasn't been many people to be able to do that. And so I definitely appreciate that and being considerate in the way that you have and understanding. And I'm very pleased by the questions that you've asked and being able to, dig deeper into, Jenny's side of things and revealing who she actually was. And I don't know if you guys permit or not, but like I told you before, I if anybody's wanting to look further into this or hear any more the side of my story, I absolutely plan on jumping back on here with you guys and getting, to the bottom of this and talking more with you guys. And but if you do, I did write a book about this myself. There's no profit whatsoever coming to me from this. It's just something that I did to finally get my side of the story out so that it couldn't be twisted in any way or manipulated in any kind of way. It's just my words straight from me to the person that's reading it. But the book is on Amazon now. Again, not looking to make any profit from it. I don't make anything. I like 5 cents a book. So there's nothing there, but it's more about the truth and getting the truth out there about Jenny and what really happened. But it's called Beyond the Shadows on Amazon. It's available now. But thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
You're welcome.
No
Keith.
problem.
Thank you very much.
All right. We'll be talking to you real soon.
This podcast is supported by MIDI Health. Are you in midlife, feeling dismissed, unheard, or just plain tired of the old healthcare system? You're not alone. In fact, even today, 75% of women seeking care for menopause and perimenopause issues are left entirely untreated. But it's time for a change. It's time for MIDI. MIDI's not just a healthcare provider. It's a women's telehealth clinic founded and supported by world-class leaders in women's health. Their clinicians provide one-on-one, face-to-face consultations where they truly listen to your unique needs. They offer a full range of holistic, data-driven solutions that isn't one-size-fits-all care. This is care uniquely tailored for you. At MIDI, you will find that their mission is clear: to help all women thrive in midlife, giving them access to the healthcare they deserve. Because they believe midlife isn't the middle at all. It is the beginning of your second act. Ready to feel your best and write your second act script? Visit joinmidi.com today to book your personalized, insurance-covered virtual visit. That's joinmidi.com. MIDI, the care women deserve.